So this is going to be a little bit of a different video. As people can probably see, I've made 2 videos about the Death Battle casts for November and December 2024. I like making those videos and I like watching the casts. But after this last week, there's a big elephant in the room. They did not handle their new segment, Kick of the Week, well at all. So for those who don't know, part of the Death Battle Kickstarter was that they would talk about your matchup on the Death Battle cast. They had multiple tiers in the Kickstarter, but the $2,500 tier was what included this reward. This tier was $1,000 more than the previous tier, and the only differences between these tiers is that the special thanks credit was changed to a producer credit, and that you would be able to have your own matchup on the Death Battle cast, or as they worded it, talked about on cast. To have a matchup on the cast does a lot to make your matchup more popular to a general audience because now they don't have to do the research themselves to understand why it's a good idea. That's what's so good about the cast. It's a testing ground for matchups to expose how they could possibly go when or if they make it into a full Death Battle episode. It's supposed to be a fun and cheap way to test audience engagement, and plenty of their own podcast episodes have turned into real episodes of Death Battle. So when people saw that they can get their episodes talked about on the cast, of course people were ecstatic. But when it finally came down to talking about the matchup, specifically Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars facing Makuta from Bionicles, they only talked about this matchup for a little more than 6 minutes in this podcast. And they didn't even really know what they were talking about at that. That isn't worth the price point people paid, and I can understand why people would be mad. They were not clear what they meant in their Kickstarter. Maybe they thought that being able to pitch the idea of this podcast to the crew and get their own cast segment was worth the price. But let's look at how they rated their own price points for the pitches. You can get any single reward from this Kickstarter separate from any tier, and their individual price point for pitching your own matchup to the cast was $300 no matter who you pitched to, while getting the episode on the podcast additionally was $1,500. That 6 minutes was apparently worth $1,200. I'm not trying to send hate Death Battle's way at all. I'm a Death Battle shill. I pretty much always take anything they do in the best way possible. But this situation is just a little weird. After the cast came out, Ben said this on the Discord. I'm not sure if I could show messages on a member-only Discord, so I'll just read this message out loud. Ben says, "Hey everyone, been seeing some talk about this week's Death Battle cast, and I wanted to address some things. I've been interested in experimenting with the show and adjusting its format and direction for the future, but I feel like today's ideas fell short. In practice, I don't like how the Kick of the Week segment worked at all, and we'll be dropping that concept for something more impactful moving forward. During our Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign last year, the White Phoenix Pledge tier guaranteed quite a few digital and physical rewards, including a matchup of the backer's choice being featured on the Death Battle cast. It was intended to be featured in segments to provide an equal opportunity among these backers, regardless of matchup idea. That way, even the most niche or random concept would be highlighted at the same level. But balancing that with a show that relies on consistent viewership is obviously tricky, and we don't want each backer to feel obligated to pitch ideas for the algorithm or something like that. We should have been more clear about that. We still believe a segment format will accomplish this, but we will be changing how that's implemented moving forward so it's more meaningful. I want to bring more attention to these pitches in future episodes, and revisit the one from today. I mean, Palpatine vs. Makuta is an awesome idea, and trying to squeeze it into this episode obviously didn't feel right. It's exciting to be rolling out these rewards, and there's plenty more to come. The backers made those pledges as a means to support us, to revive Death Battle in a time when the show was in danger of ending, and we want to do right by them. This is my own words now. This is a good thing, I'd say. These matchups deserve love, but I still have a problem with this. The Death Battle crew aren't recluses at all. They always dip in and out on their Reddit and their Discord, as well as watch YouTube videos from other Death Battle YouTubers. There's no way they didn't know that people thought their matchups would end up being a full Death Battle cast. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt here. They have been very busy making the show independently, and they are all still finding their roles in the company. Maybe they've just been too busy to notice the misconceptions taking place. Like I said before, I'll almost never take what they do as malicious. I don't think they'd intentionally mislead people. I think they are all great people themselves. This stuff just needs to be handled differently. I also disagree with the idea that people would have to pick popular characters or matchups to go along with the algorithm. Firstly, as long as you do your research, you can make an hour-long cast about almost any matchup. Secondly, using niche ideas can actually help you find an audience. I can't tell you how many people I watch because I found videos about niche IPs. It's a way to grow a more permanent audience. For example, Knuckles vs. Piccolo won't do much to get you more loyal viewers because you already appeal to both Sonic and Dragon Ball fans regularly. But a series like Bionicles can expand your viewership because now someone who has no idea what your show is searches up Bionicles and finds you. They now have a higher chance of finding your channel and watching you. I watch people because I searched up videos about Ergo Proxy, Cavern of Dreams, and Omori. Not sure if that last one is very obscure nowadays though. The point is though that I found videos that random people made and became fans even though they only ever made one video about the original topic I was searching for. I think a full cast about almost any series, no matter how obscure, would be beneficial to the show, even if the cast overall got less views. Also, I just thought of this right now. Why would the crew take people's PowerPoints for the Death Battle casts if they weren't going to use the PowerPoints to debate the matchups anyways? We've already seen videos online popping up about how people were pitching their ideas to Death Battle for a Death Battle cast. And we know they asked for the PowerPoints. So what did they want them for? I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm done being negative. I want to think of ways they can do these moving forward if they are really adamant they don't want to do them as full cast episodes. I have 3 ways. Firstly, attach these pitches to a Q&A of a recent Death Battle episode. People seem to really like your Q&A segments, so taking 30 minutes to talk about a Q&A and 30 minutes to talk about a pitch matchup wouldn't undermine that matchup in the slightest. The second idea is that they can do something similar to that, but talk about 2 Kickstarter matchups in one podcast. One idea that's more clickable, and one idea that's more niche. I'm sure they have a healthy mix of ideas in there, so it shouldn't be hard to do. My last idea is to have 3 or 4 matchups talked about per podcast, but only talk about the Kickstarter matchups one week of that month. That way they can still talk about more clickable matchups the other weeks of that month, and still get a good amount of Kickstarter-backed matchups done every single month. There's ways they can do this to make people happy, and I'm sure that whatever they come up with next will be way more respectful for the matchups that people requested. On my end, I will add these Kickstarter-backed episodes into my monthly Death Battle cast rankings. I want to show these matchups love and try to get people hyped on these more niche ideas. I won't be doing heavy research though, just light research. I just truthfully don't have enough time in my life to look through so many matchups in a timely manner. But that's why I'm going to be shilling Fan Battle now. They are making a podcast where they talk about all these Kickstarter matchups in great detail, and I'm sure it will be entertaining. That's all for me though. I honestly want to know what everyone else thought about this, especially if you backed this tier. I want to know if anyone has any ideas on how they can handle this in the future. I just want everyone at the end of the day to leave happy and satisfied about how they spent their own money. Take care everyone, and have a wonderful week.